Welcome to Go Math Lesson 6.1. Today we started by reviewing fractions, and when we look at a fraction, I want to remind everyone that when we have 2/3, the denominator 3 tells me how many equal parts I have, and the numerator 2 tells me how many parts I'm talking about or how many parts are shaded. Today we said that we understand this and we're building from that already, so we are not reviewing the basic parts of a fraction. So today we're looking for equivalent fractions. In this first picture for number 1, we have this picture broken into fifths, and one of the fifths is shaded in. What they want us to do is to break this picture apart into another way so that we can name this fraction differently. And so looking at this picture over here, we said, well, if we split every single piece in half, we will now have 10 pieces, and there are 2 of them shaded. So 1/5 is equivalent to 2/10. The same thing with number 2. We have 2/3 shaded in, and we said we could split that into half, and we would then have 4 of the 6 pieces shaded in, going on. Equivalent fractions just go on and on. One thing we did notice is that when we're making equivalent fractions, the denominators are multiples. So we have 3, 6, we could have done something with 9, and then we have 12. We could come up with something with 15, 18, and so on. So the denominators are all going to be multiples of each other if they are equivalent. Now when we have these problems here for 3 through 8, one of the ways that the students have learned to compare fractions is to use what they call the butterfly method. And we're not going to use that here because I really want them to understand that they need to be multiples of each other. So I gave the students this strategy. I had them start with the smaller denominator, and I said, what can you multiply 6 by to get to 12? And they said times 2. And I said, okay, whatever you do to the denominator, you also have to do to the numerator. So 1 times 2 is 2. So we have 6 times 2 is 12, and 1 times 2 is 2, and that works, so that is equal. And they are equivalent. Now, not all of them are going to be equivalent fractions, and we'll see that as we keep going. If I ask myself what times 5 equals 10, I would say 5 times 2 equals 10. So what do I do to the denominator? I'm going to do to the top. So 2 times 2 is 4. It's not 6. So these are not equivalent fractions. Now number 5, they're starting with the larger denominator, and that's okay. We can just think backwards. We'll say 3 times what is 12? 3 times 4 is 12. So 1 times 4 is 4, so this is equivalent. And we would keep doing that with these problems. 4 times what is 8? 4 times 2. So 2 times 2, oh, that's 4, so this is not equivalent. They may run into some problems where the denominators are not multiples of each other. In all of these examples, they are, and so we got to the point where we were just looking at the numerator. But if I was looking at 1/8, and I was comparing it to twelfths, say 3/12, and I was asking myself, what times 8 gives me 12? Well, nothing, because 12 is not a multiple of 8. So I told the kids just to put a question mark there when they are not multiples of each other, and right there and then we know that they are not equivalent. That is a strategy that we started to look at, that those denominators must be multiples of the smaller number. I hope these little strategies help.